Hi, Franco Cavaleri here, and I've been asked to actually discuss ketosis in the context of fat loss a couple of times. So I think, it's fitting for me to do a quick video, quick and dirty, to give you an idea where we sit conceptually with regards to ketosis, exogenous ketones, and weight management in the context of these supplements. Typically we see out in the marketplace where companies are marketing the application or the supplementation of BHB, beta-hydroxybutyrate, or exogenous ketones that you would take as a supplement in a pre-workout format or throughout the day, and claiming that these supplements help to induce fat loss. And the reality is that there's no evidence showing that BHB in exogenous forms does support weight management or fat loss in the way that it's being claimed in the marketplace. Let me give you an example why. I've got a bit of a slideshow that I created for a talk a while back, and I'm going to use components of that slideshow, that PowerPoint, to help make the case, but help clarify the situation for those who've had these questions. So what's prompted me to actually do this is the series of emails I'm getting in this context. So I thought it'd be fitting to describe what our position is with this. So typically, if you supplement BHB, which is considered in some philosophies with regards to the supplementation, that the BHB is a fourth macronutrient. We know that fat, carbohydrate, and protein sources represent the typical three macronutrients. But this fourth macronutrient, BHB, typically delivers anywhere from 4.7 to 5.1 kilocalories per gram. So ultimately, you have a caloric source in BHB when you supplement it that needs to be burned off. The other interesting thing that happens, and I'm going to use the slide here at this moment to begin to make this case, is that when you consume these exogenous ketones, these exogenous ketones definitely help to increase serum ketone levels, as you see on the slide. And typically, if you increase serum ketones beyond 0.2 millimoles, 0.2 millimoles tends to be your baseline, it's said that you're in ketosis. But when you're in ketosis, does that mean you're burning fat? And that's the big question. And the answer is absolutely not. When you're in ketosis, you are not necessarily burning fat. So let's have a look real quick, Lee, to see what is happening here metabolically and why this misinformation has been used to leverage these claims incorrectly. So we can actually induce ketosis through a ketogenic diet. Now, ketogenesis is a different concept than ketosis, yet they're related. Ketosis is simply the elevation of serum ketone levels above baseline, above 0.2 millimoles, whereas ketogenesis is the generation of ketones in the body endogenously, which means that your body is actually using fat substrates to make ketones. So if you take an exogenous ketone supplement, drink to increase your serum ketone levels, you are not necessarily using your fat. In fact, you are not at all using your endogenous body fat or dietary fat to raise your serum ketone levels. So my question to you at this point is, then are you burning or oxidizing your own fat when you take this exogenous supplement, this BHB? And so, although we see improved cognitive status in some cases, improved appetite control, the fact is that when you take an exogenous ketone through a supplement, you're actually inhibiting. There's a feedback mechanism that inhibits the mobilization of fat from your adipose cell. So it prevents the liver from receiving the fats from your adipose cell to create ketones through what's called beta oxidation. So in order to actually burn fat, so to speak, or oxidize fat as a fuel, you really have to eliminate the BHB from the bloodstream. And the BHB you consume orally then represents a caloric source that you have to either eliminate through urine or eliminate by oxidizing it to generate ATP. And in order to prevent that BHB calorie hit from being added to your fat stores, you have to literally exercise through that caloric content. So if you take a 30 or 40 gram load of BHBs in your supplement, you're consuming about 150 to 200 calories that you have to burn through for 20 or 25 minutes on a treadmill before you even get to burn any of your body fat. Elevated serum ketones inhibit lipolysis, preventing your body from using your own fat. So what is different then when you begin to use a supplement like Ketoba? Well, Ketoba is designed very differently. Ketoba delivers less than 50 calories per serving, but it supplies a signal for beta oxidation. Ketoba is an ATP substrate, BHB, a small amount that primes the body, but it also is coupled to BA, butyric acid, which is a fatty acid that supplies the signal for beta oxidation endogenously. So what we're doing here is a very interesting phenomenon. Ketoba is quite complex because butyric acid and not BHB, because BHB is the hydroxylated version of butyric, and they have similar functions, yet they're very different as well. Butyric acid does not induce gastrointestinal distress, and it actually produces an anti-inflammatory effect on the gastrointestinal or mucosal lining. So it helps the body tolerate your BHB supplement without gastrointestinal distress. It facilitates healthy gut bacterial colony. Now, the key feature that differentiates Ketoba from regular BHB is that it facilitates passive absorption of water and electrolytes in the colon, but very importantly, stimulates beta oxidation. It actually activates at a cellular level. So it's a signaling agent to activate the liver's capacity and your adipocytes' capacity to actually manufacture ketones, primarily beta hydroxybutyrate, so that it compounds and is added to the exogenous ketone you're supplying. And it facilitates ketosis, but by promoting your body's ability to use your own fat as a source of ketones, to generate ketones for the brain primarily, for the most of the body. So butyric acid also supports better appetite control and portion control, improves neurogenesis and memory in people that may have dysfunctions that are related to cognitive ailments. But here's the interesting thing. This is very important to note, and that is that when you take Ketoba, you get multiple functions playing at the same time. You have a push-pull system. For example, you have a small amount of BHB, beta hydroxybutyric acid entering the bloodstream, and that kind of stops the lipolytic process, but allows you to engage in physical work during a fasting workout without any hiccups, without any energy deficits. But you quickly burn through that because it's a small load of BHB with a high load of BA. And then suddenly the BA, the butyric acid, is pushing the signal forward to cause your body to use your fat to produce ketones. So as you quickly burn through the BHB, then suddenly the body is primed to push forward during your physical activity to burn fat, use fat as your primary source of energy. Your energy never hiccups, is never delineated. The feedback, the results in the lab, the feedback and the results in the field have been phenomenal. People have said their fasting workout has never been stronger. In fact, they've never had workouts, period, that are stronger, especially when considering the fact that they're in a fasted state doing so. So, very interesting. I'm going to go back to this and show you some phenomenon that we've seen develop. So when we go back to some studies, we've been actually doing studies on transcription factors at a cellular level to demonstrate how Ketoba affects and conditions your cells with endogenous antioxidants to help protect your cells from toxins, from oxidation, and from stress loads. But here's an interesting thing. I'll keep it very simple. Let's have a look at these charts here. So these graphs represent a very simple process where we take Ketoba internally here and we measure serum glucose and serum ketone levels. And this is just one serving. So at one serving, we see, for example, in this case, we see serum glucose levels dropping while ketone levels are rising. Serum glucose levels here relatively they remain relatively stable. A little bit of a drop here, but you see ketone levels going up to 1.2 millimoles. So what's very interesting about the phenomena here is that when you take BHB alone, what happens is you get an elevated ketone level, but you don't necessarily affect glucose. But in this case, what we're doing is we are reducing serum glucose levels for those who may have an escalated serum glucose level, but we are raising ketone levels. So what happens metabolically? What you're trying to do when you're going into ketosis is to keep serum glucose levels relatively low at baseline, between 4.5 and 5, and typically raise serum ketone levels so that you use ketones as the primary substrate for ATP generation, and then that ketone concentration in relation to the glucose can work its wonders. So we have a system here which does that, helps reduce the glucose level, serum glucose, while raising ketones. But as you can see, from individual to individual, the results will fluctuate slightly. And that's because there are so many metabolic variations amongst us that even in one person who's going to do this test 2 or 3 times in a week, they're going to get different results each time because of their state of mind, state of stress, physical load, whether they have fasted, what kinds of food they've eaten in the day, and generally their metabolic and genetic predispositions from individual to individual. So Ketoba is a great product. It has great science built into it, but ketones do not burn fat. However, Ketoba is a system designed to facilitate ketogenesis so that you support endogenous ketone generation, whether you're on a ketogenic diet or not. And it supports a pre-workout initiative like you've never felt before. Promise. Anyways, hopefully that will demystify some of what we're hearing and seeing in the marketplace. Till the next time.